Hey everybody, welcome to the Infinite Regression. I haven't played Minecraft in a while, and it's soothing and calming and nice, and I think I might just play some. So why don't you come along and we'll play some Minecraft together. Ooh, random splash. Hey, life is hard sometimes. It is, it's true. Yeah, this dingus week, holy maloli. This week was like 3 weeks long. That's what I told everyone. That was my running, not really a joke, but like sort of a explanation for what it felt like. And people were like, "Yeah, you right." Like this week is interminable, which is a fun word. Feel free to use it. Interminable. It means seemingly without end. It doesn't mean actually endless. It just means something that goes on for long enough for you to be like, holy crap, does this ever end? That's interminable. Like anything that takes a long time in an unpleasant way to where you're like, this is too much. I can't, like, what? Yeah, interminable. This is good. This is good stuff. Anyway, yeah. They don't pay me the tiny English teacher bucks for nothing. Cause I do oh, that sounds like a slime in my mind. Anyway, but yeah, they pay me the tiny English teacher bucks so that I can teach you things like that. Aha, it is a slime. Slime you slimer. Aha. Slimes were very different back in the grognard Minecraft days. So remember, I'm playing Minecraft version 1.0.0 in this version. All right, let's talk about it. Let's unpack. You know, I feel like no one should watch these Minecraft episodes except for me. Why would you watch them? They're like my personal diary. They're like my personal diarrhea. It's like my personal watery poopses just flowing from my buttocks. Anyway, so yeah, it was a long dingus week. So yeah, I had no AC all week. It's been an ongoing thing. I had no AC in my classroom, which makes things seem like they're lasting forever. And I entered the week with a tremendous amount of grading to get done, which I actually did get done, but not without an awful lot of work. So on Tuesday, which is standardized testing day, we've been building up to for months. And when I say building up to, I mean my English teacher colleagues and myself have been spending our homeroom times, like leaving our homeroom classes so that we can go teach other classes of people who are going to be taking the test how to do well on the test, which is time really well spent because, you know, a lot of the people that I was going to teach are, you know, not just terrible students, but are not really that great as human beings. Like, I hate to say it, I really do. But the funny thing is that it's called Bronc time, is what our homeroom is called. My Bronc time is like 99.9% delightful. There are a couple knuckleheads that, like, they hate everyone in there and everyone in there hates them right back. But, like, because that's the case, because they're like an outlier, there's a sort of stasis where, I mean, right now, the people who hate everyone are distance learning, and then everybody else is chill. Because, like, they like me, I like them. We have an understanding that, like, I won't demand anything ridiculous of them so long as they, like, try in their classes and actually try and pass. And they're doing, I mean, a lot of them aren't doing too incredibly great, but they're doing better than a lot of people. And anyway, so yeah, I like my bronc time. My wife's bronc time switched so they could be with a math teacher, and then she teaches them math Monday, Wednesday. I teach them English Tuesday, Thursday, and there's a lot of dinguses in that class, like just terrible. And it's funny, like teachers hate it when you're put in a situation where like you have nothing to hold over on the kids, and I don't mean like hold over. Here's what I mean. There's no accountability for the kids to try or to do well. It's just basically like, shut up and do what I tell you, or I'm going to write you up, and you're going to get detention or suspension depending upon the severity of your infraction. That's how that goes. And, nobody likes getting written up. Nobody likes writing people up because then you have to call parents. It's a real pain in the neck because it's funny when you're calling parents for people getting written up. It's going to be a couple of different things. Like either you'll get parents who are really supportive and they'll be like, no, I'm going to talk to them. We'll sort this out. That happens the least. And those parents do tend to be true to their word. You don't end up writing up that kid more than once ever. And it does tend to get sorted. And that kid might not get up more than once ever in their entire high school career. So, that can be beneficial. And granted, like, I am painfully aware of the characterization of the American school system as a factory for conformity. And while I don't like conformity in my own self, I don't thrive in conformity. I generally try to, buck the system whenever I can. Just it's my very nature. But the thing of it is that we've built society on conformity. Like, we've all like I'll give you an example. It's very simple. What would happen if people decided, no more conformity for traffic laws? Like I'm gonna go 85 up a one-way street going the wrong way, and I won't stop at stop signs. Like, you can see how that could very quickly devolve into a bad situation. Certain levels of conformity, much as I hate to admit it, certain levels of conformity are necessary for the functioning of society. And it's something that we have agreed upon in a mutual, a social contract for the conformity, for the betterment of all. Just simple ideas, speed limits, common decency with certain things, which a lot of those are falling apart. Like, it's funny how, like, I'll give you an example of them falling apart. So people have more peanut allergies now, and there is a correlation between peanut allergy and come on, stupid. Oh, that's right, it's charcoal. Yeah. So I might have take that coal, put that charcoal. We'll just hold on to the coal for now. Anyway, so yeah, here's an idea that's really stupid but is increasingly prevalent. Is people who are like, I gotta take my dog everywhere. My dog goes everywhere with me. Okay, why? Well, I have loneliness issues and sadness issues and like, okay. But you're not blind though, because it used to be you had to be blind. And I know what you're going to say. You're going to be like, hey, but some people have seizures and they have dogs that warn of seizures. Okay, couple of things on that front. Uh, First of all, I used to, back when I was a church going person, which no longer. It's funny. Like you could count, like pretty much you could count on one hand the number of times I missed church between birth and me being, 30, mid 30s. We'll just say mid 30s. Yeah, you count on one hand the number of times I missed church because I didn't miss church hardly ever. Because, I was very ingrained in that system. And now not as much. It's true. Okay. Anyway, but back when I was a church going person, there were these sisters who started coming to church, and they had these, like, they weren't wheelchairs, they were fucking, language. Oh boy. I don't edit, and I forget sometimes who my audience is. Anyway, regardless, the fact of the matter is, these women, they were, here are a few descriptors. They were, number one, very large. They were of a girthy nature. They were rotund. They were big boned. They were super duper fat. I could say that as a fat person myself. I can say it. Anyway, so yeah, they were not small women, and they came in like beds, like basically mobile hospital beds that were motorized. What? Is my lovely wife coming closer to me? I may have walked out on Tim Minchin. My wife and I were watching Tim Minchin, whom I love. I love Tim Minchin very much. But today's been a lot. This has been an emotional roller coaster of a day. And I just wanted to unwind in my own special way. So, hope my wife does not feel abandoned or anything of the sort. But she was asleep, so like she was out cold. Did not notice when I got up, and we don't have that special like, oh, don't notice when your partner gets up bed. Like, that might be one of our next purchases, but we don't have it yet. So, anyway, regardless, so yeah, yeah, these very large women with these mobile hospital beds, and we were told they both had these yapper type dogs with them, like little, annoying kind of dogs that that people have. They just bark at everything and bark and shake, like those kind of dogs. And we were told, like, the pastor was like, hey, these women are going to be in our congregation, and they're going to have these dogs with them, and these dogs are highly trained to respond because both of these women are epileptic. And should any medical type emergency of an epileptic nature occur, these dogs will alert us. Which, like, okay, let me let this story unfold naturally before I start analyzing it. So this is what we're told, and we're all like, okay, yeah, dogs can sniff bombs, they can do many things of an impressive nature. They can taste vaguely of beef, albeit a bit stringy. Yes, I have eaten dog. It was in a third world country. I didn't know it was dog meat at the time. I only found out later and was like, huh, I thought it was beef. And they're like, yep, dog is a little bit beefy, but it's stringy. You know, everything's supposed to taste like chicken. Dog tasted more like beef than it did like chicken. Just so if you ever wonder what Rover tastes like, you can know that you have a just wildly depraved individual who once lived in a third world country who can answer those questions for you. So you don't need to cut open your best pal. Anyway, so yeah, dogs. I've never been a fan, and this is very upsetting to people. Like the fact that I've said this, you yourself are frothing at the mouth. You're like, what? You don't like dogs? How dare you not have a soul, you piece of filth, you piece of garbage, you garbage man, you terrible, terrible human being. How dare you not like dogs? How dare you? And before you bite my friggin' head off, please hear me out, okay? Because I have a reason. You know how your dog is like the best thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Your dog loves you no matter what. Your dog is so happy to see you when it gets home. Your dog, adds vibrance and joy to your life. Okay. All right. A dog has never done that for me, ever. Ever. Here has been the sum total of my experience with dogs. I grew up next to a number of dogs which were friggin' terrible. Just awful. Awful, awful dogs. And basically those dogs, here's what they would do. They would bark all night, keep me awake, which that was not fun. And their owner's response to the incessant barking was to occasionally, but not always, yell the dog's name and tell it to shut up. And I kid you not, this is the type of dog ownership. And I, lived in a small rural town in a in a state known for its agriculture and whatnot. And so, yeah, make your judgments as to, what kind of people were owning these dogs. If you will, you might be right, you might be wrong. I won't tell you one way or the other. But anyway, yeah, it'd be like if the dog was named Rover, the dog would be like, roofity roof, I'm a dog, I'm barking all night. And then, like, at some point, owner would be like, hey, Rover, shut up. And they would seem angry at the dog. They would seem like they resented the dog's very existence. And I did not have the wherewithal, as a young man with no other experience with dogs, to disagree with them. They were like, oh, this dog is a burden on my life. I regret having ever owned him, and I am yelling at him as if he were a piece of flea-ridden filth that I hate. And I was like, the two of us are of one mind, R.E. your dog situation. Because he, keeps me up at night as well, and it's terrible, right? So that's number one, the incessant barking. Number two is the pooping on the lawn. Like, okay, people act like the dog owner collecting the poop of the dog is like it has always been that way. It has not. It has not, people. This is a recent invention that we have only recently been able to get humans to take care of dog feces. Like, because for the longest time, if dogs crapped on lawns, lawns got crapped on, and that was the end of anyone caring about it, except for me. You know why I care about it? Because I had to mow the lawn. And so when that dog crap would get sprayed all over my shoes when that mower blade hit that unseen, unknowable piece of dog turd hiding in the tall grass, like, how am I supposed to feel about it? Just spraying dog crap all up my leg, and am I supposed to be like, oh, what a silly little ragamuffin you have there, sir? A silly, silly little ragamuffin. No, I was furious because, like, I didn't own a friggin' dog, and yet I was reaping all of the benefits of dog have, what with the barking and the dog crap. Okay, there's two more facets of my dog negativity, which buckle up. And I have corroborated this with a sister of mine who, like, has owned a dog. Like, she has come around and has, like, you know, owned a dog before and is like, okay, dogs can be all right and whatnot. But yeah, she is also corroborated for me the fact that, like, all of the dog owners in our neighborhood growing up were the freaking worst. You know, that they took no care whatsoever. It couldn't be bothered less with their dog ownership and the responsibilities thereof. So yeah. And granted, all of this stuff in childhood, it sort of sets you up in a certain way. It paints your future experiences with dog. Anyway, okay, so, yeah, they bark all night, they poop on lawn. Okay, that's pretty bad, but, like, what if a dog was really sweet? Well, they never were. None of the dogs that I was around. By the way, everyone will always say, I have an aunt who had a dog named Cricket. Cricket was a little yapper type dog, and except for Cricket didn't bark very often, I don't know. And people would tell me that Cricket was very nice. But, like, by the time I was interacting with Cricket, I was, like, out on dogs because of the many negative experiences I had had with dogs. And so they're like, well, didn't you like Cricket? And I'd be like, no, I never interacted with that dog because of all of my previous negative experiences with dogs. You know, it'd be like, you know, if the land was full of giants and they were, you know, people eating giants, and then someone tells you, like, oh, there's a big friendly giant, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna pass on that, buckaroo. And they're like, but he's a big friendly giant. Don't you want to love a big friendly giant? And you say, like, hey, don't judge me for the experiences that I've had with giants, because I wasn't the one who made them. I was the one who had them unwillingly, mind you. You know, it's not like I was like, hey, I would like people to make their dogs crap on my lawn all the time so that I can spray my shoes with fresh dog turds every time I have to mow the lawn. No, that is not a thing I ever asked for, not a thing I ever wanted. So it was inflicted upon me by others. You have them to thank for my feelings about dogs. Okay? So, yeah, in addition to the barking and the pooping, was the fact that, like, we had the old school metal trash cans that you used to have before there were bins with, you know, whatnot. So think about like the type of trash can that you see in the hit Broadway show Stomp, and that is the only place where you've seen a trash can of that variety other than like to hold, I don't know, grains for farm animals. I feel like they get used for that more than they get used for trash anymore, because like every city has an ordinance for the big old plastic bins. Anyway, so yeah, we had old school trash cans and we had four of them because we had, 8 kids in my family growing up. So we produced more than our fair share of garbage. And so every trash day, we had to haul all four. Wow, it's just, yeah, and I had to go uphill both ways. No, we had 4 trash cans, and we had to haul all four of them out to the curb for trash day. You'd put it out the night before, and the neighbors' dogs who were never unleashed, never on a leash, never locked behind a gate, never inside the neighbor's house, just wandering the friggin' neighborhood as if they were the neighborhood dog. Those friggin' dogs would knock over the trash and they would rummage through it and just pull all the crap out and look for like, last week's chicken skins or whatever and just, wreck the whole thing. And then bright and early, I would get awoken, by one or other of my parents saying, hey, it's garbage day and stupid dog got into the trash and it is scattered all down the street and we've got to get it picked up before the trash man gets here. Now, do you think this endeared me to these dogs? No, of course not. Because who likes picking up garbage with their bare hands? And as my parents reminded me on many occasions, oh, skin is washable. You can wash skin. So don't worry about like picking up raw freaking garbage with your bare hands before the sun has come up in the morning because somebody didn't, and there were leash laws in the town, but nobody freaking followed them. Nobody. Certainly not our neighbors. Anyway. So yeah, these dogs would knock over the trash cans. Okay? But that were not all, Mon Frunda. Because guess what else? Guess what other delightful activity dogs used to engage in with me? They bit me multiple times. I was bitten by dogs multiple times because I used to be a bit of an amateur cyclist. And I used to ride my bicycle. I used to ride my bike. I used to ride my bicycle. I used to ride it where I like. Except these freaking dogs would lose their goddamn minds to see a human on a bicycle. And they're like, I must bite that child on the leg. And they did multiple times. And it didn't matter. Like, I mean, my dad carried, like, because he was also a cyclist. It's where I learned about the cycling. He carried a pellet pistol, a BB pistol, an air pistol of some sort. Carried it with him so that he could shoot dogs with it. And you think that's cruel. And to hear you dog owners out there like, oh, that's so cruel. Hey, keep your freaking dog behind a fence, because when they see someone ride past on a bicycle, they're like, I must bite. It's like a slower moving car. Only, if a dog bites a car, the car is like, meh. Dog bites person on a bicycle, it freaking sucks. Breaks the skin. You have to be like, hey, is your stupid dog rabid? No, it's not rabid. Can I put it down anyway? Because you're a terrible dog owner. And that's the thing, is that, like, I've explained this to people, and I've had multiple people say, oh, you're right, they are terrible dog owners. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I've been saying for years now. But has it saved me from the, leery-eyed judgment of dog owners the world over? No, it has not. Because, I am apparently a terrible person, because all of my experiences with dogs when I was a kid were negative, and that was not my fault. I did not put that on me. I did not choose. If I could have chosen to have positive experiences with dogs, do you think I would have said, like, no, I'd rather that they, bark all night and poop on my lawn and tip over my trash and then bite me from time to time? Who would choose that as an option? No one in their right friggin' mind. And when I went to my sister and was like, hey, people are really mad at me about this dog thing, which, first of all, okay, the dog meat. All right. I was in Southeast Asia. I used to live there. And people are very poor. And also, like, don't you get all judgy because, like, animals that we keep as pets, they eat, and animals that we eat, they keep as pets. Yeah. There are people with pet chickens who'd be like, what? You eat chickens? You dirty person. No, they eat chickens too. I mean, as a culture, it's culturally acceptable to eat chicken. But like I have known people with pet chickens who were like, what? Eat my precious little Maybelline? No, never. Her name was not Maybelline. I don't know what the chicken's name was. Honestly, I don't remember. But yeah, that's my spiel about dogs. Okay. So, look, what kind of animals do I like? Well, I've always been a big fan of lizards and reptiles in general. I've always enjoyed snakes. I love tortoises. Tortoises are amazing because they're like the most evolutionarily stable thing on the friggin' planet. Like, you look at what tortoises were built like, in the days of the dinosaurs, and it's basically the same thing they got going on now. They're like, we don't have to change for anybody. We are tortoises, and we are awesome. And you look at them and you're like, yeah, you are. God, you're amazing. Why would anyone not want you for a pet? And guess what? If you get a tortoise for a pet, be a good tortoise owner. Put them in your will, because if you take care of them, they will live for up to like 85 years, which, unless you are buying them at birth and living the exact, maximum life expectancy for, someone these days, yeah, you're going to need to put your tortoise in your will, because you're going to need to provide for them after your death, because they should, if properly taken care of, they should outlive you, which is kind of awesome. It'd be an awesome legacy where, like, this, like, we all remember Lonesome George, who lived for so long, all alone, the only member of his species, of his particular species of Galapagos tortoise. And they looked so long and hard to find a mate. They never did. And he was, the face of many, like, animal conservation campaigns, and rightfully so. And, the face of Lonesome George, like, he could have seen the SS Beagle coming in with Darwin on board, for how long he had been around. And he only died a few years back, because your giant tortoises have lifespans of up to like 300 years. And so what have they seen? You look into their eyes and there is such, they're like elves in that way. You know how elves kind of have a hard time with the affairs of humans because human lives are over and done with so quickly, and elven lives go on, and so they have a much different perspective on, what constitutes a pressing and urgent matter. And it's always to the chagrin of humans that elves are like, we're going to stop and think about it for a bit because we've got nothing but time. And humans are like, we don't. We need to get things done soon. And they're like, but we're elves, though. Anyway, I don't need to tell you about elves, either of the Tolkien variety or of the D&D variety, which borrows largely from the Tolkien variety. I don't need to tell you that. Anyway, but yeah, tortoises, they're magical creatures. They absolutely are. And I love them. And lizards, like, they're so freaking cute. Lizards, are you kidding me? I used to catch them as a kid, and my mom was always trying to explain to me why it wouldn't work out, that I'm trying to keep a, southwestern whiptail lizard, which are very hard to catch. They're very fast. Anyone who's ever tried to catch one will tell you that. And yet, as a kid, I was very low to the ground and wise to the ways of the lizard. I was very good at catching them. Uh, Horned toads, your horny toads, like, so cool. I always wanted to see one shoot blood from its eyes, but I never did get to see that. I never made one angry enough. Apparently, they never saw me as enough of a threat. Anyway, those were the kinds of animals that I was always into. It's only been recently that I've been brought into the ways of the feline, which, yeah, of course, dog lovers, I am basically your enemy. Like, you can hate me, it's fine. I don't give a crap. Like, hate me if you must. Uh, I don't. Well, I mean, if you're one of my students, then I do know you, and you can hate me. It's fine. I don't give a crap. You're gonna graduate, uh, and you still have to, pass my class, whether you hate me or not. And if you are a stranger, well, then I don't give a crap if you hate me. Like, I really don't. Um, but just try to understand from the perspective of someone else that, like, your little infallible dog who, like, can do no wrong in your eyes is not infallible to everyone, nor is everyone delighted to see your friggin' pooch everywhere. Because it used to be, you used to have to be blind, like actually blind, to have a service dog. Now, I don't know if I finished the story with the two ladies with their dogs. But yeah, I explained the part where I've never been a fan of dogs, and dogs taste vaguely of beef. Anyway, these two ladies with their mobile hospital beds and their many, many health problems and their massive weight issues. Like, these women, like, probably, pushing 450 each. I'd gauge, the conservative estimate on the weight of these two ladies in their mobile hospital beds. Anyway, so we were told that these dogs would help warn of oncoming seizures, which is excellent so that we could do. Yeah, exactly. 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 Because even though in our congregation we had people who were medical professionals, we had several of them, as a matter of fact, because we had a hospital where our first child was born was literally right up the road. And so, yeah, the sound of the slimes is so different, and they die so much more easily in Grognard Minecraft. Like, anyway, regardless. Yeah, so because of the proximity to the hospital, we had a lot of congregants who were medical professionals. And when I say right down the road, I mean like literally less than a quarter of a mile away from the church was the hospital where my first child was born. Anyway, so yeah, we had several medical professionals in the congregation, which meant that, like, if the worst should happen, either of these very large women should go into convulsions of an epileptic variety. And please understand, like, it's not that I'm unfeeling for people who suffer from epilepsy. My older brother suffers from epilepsy. When I was a child, they were concerned that I might suffer from, like, a catatonic type epilepsy, but then they found out that I was just a space case. And that's it. I was a middle child who would just stare off into the distance and wonder if anybody noticed. which is how I got to be the way I am. Anyway, so yes, there we go. Ta-da. Yeah, so these women were epileptic, and I'm not unfeeling about their medical issues. Like, certainly epilepsy is a serious medical issue, and you know, I've had students who suffer from epilepsy. It's not a fun thing to have in your life. You know, this is not a fair comparison, but like, you know, there was a time in my life when I was sleepwalking because of my severe lack of sleep when I first started teaching. Okay, know this, first of all. Rio Salado is garbage. Rio Salado College, with campuses mostly in Phoenix, Arizona, the Phoenix metropolitan area, they are a garbage institution. I have attended most of the great institutions in the state of Arizona. I hold degrees from Eastern Arizona College, where I started out. Home of the Fightin' Gila Monsters, a lovely school in a small town with, you know, just fantastic. Like, you wouldn't think that a small dingus little agricultural community would be able to support a community college with really, really great fine arts programs, but our fine arts programs kick booty. They recently got rid of their football team, but they have not gotten rid of their, you know, their show choir, for example, nor their multiple barbershop quartets. So, if that tells you anything. Anyway, so that's where I started out, Eastern Arizona College, home of the Fightin' Gila Monsters. Then I went to Arizona State University, home of the Sun Devils. Loved my time there, absolutely wonderful. And, you know, learned a great many things. Wish I could have done grad work there, honestly. Should have done grad work there, but, you know, the cards didn't fall that way, and I ended up doing my grad work at Northern Arizona University, which is located in scenic downtown Flagstaff, a lovely, snowy little town set in the middle of a friggin' forest. You know, a lovely little place. They actually have, if you want to get a degree in forestry, they have one of the great schools for that in the nation. And, like, their forestry program is kind of like, you know, the forestry program at NAU is to NAU what the air conditioning school is to Greendale in the hit television series Community. No, it's not quite that silly, but, you know, NAU is not. Community is. It's a very silly show. I enjoy it quite a bit. Anyway, so, yeah. I've done classes for my certification through Northland Pioneer College. I think I took classes there when I was in high school as well. My dad used to teach a class there. If you wanted to get your ham radio license, you used to have to take his class, and which was held in my home, actually. Funny enough, because NPC is a sort of flexible campus, you know, community college, very in the community type. Anyway, so yeah. I've gone to classes there. I've taught classes at Arizona Western College. I have, you know, been to the campuses of many of the great community and, you know, 2-year institutions in the state. And my natural enemy is supposed to be the University of Arizona, given my the fact that one of my nurturing mothers is Arizona State University. But, you know, I have family members. I have a family member who got their medical degree from the University of Arizona, and I have a family member who is a professor of religious studies at the University of Arizona. So I bear no ill will whatsoever toward that institution. I've been on its campus, and I think the town of Tucson is delightful. I wouldn't mind living there someday. I really love it. Anyway, so yeah, Rio Salado College is garbage. It's absolutely trash. Believe me, I told you my entire post-secondary educational history so that you can know that I know what I'm talking about when I tell you that I have been to an educational institution or two, and I can tell you that Rio Salado is not a quality institution. I am sorry, Rio Salado. You should have not been so crappy all the time. I am telling my vast YouTube audience that your institution is garbage and that people shouldn't go there. You're basically just a shell company for Pearson Incorporated. Pearson being, the most evil company in education. Hey, Pearson, I used to have a friggin' family member work for you, and I still have one of my high school friends works for you. I won't say who it is because, knowing you, you'd fire them. You're a jerk of a corporation, Pearson. You wasted so much of my time, and I wish you nothing but ill. I wish you nothing but ill. I hope that, terrible things happen to your corporate headquarters, while you're out of the building. I don't wish death upon you. That's a bit too far, but like, I wish you all itchy, weeping hemorrhoids. like, I wish you all boils upon your hemorrhoidal buttocks. Things like that. It's serious uncomfort I wish upon you. Anyway, so yeah, so Rio Salado is a terrible institution, but I got my here's the fun thing. Know this, people who want to go into education. If you get a master's degree, that's not far enough. If you get a master's degree in your chosen field, and you show up and you say, "Hello, I would like to teach high school, please," they will say, "No," which is funny. Now, if you showed up to a college and said, "I would like to teach college, please," it would say, "What, do you have a master's degree?" And then you say yes, and then they say, "You may teach without any further credential." Except for I had trouble, because there are a lot of people who get those teaching jobs at community colleges because of connections that they have. Typically those jobs end up going to, PhD students who should be able to find employment elsewhere but never will. And they'll get their PhD, and then they'll realize that it was all a terrible mistake and that they are now less employable with a PhD than they were with a master's degree, and they will go into the private sector and just eke out a living somewhere in the private sector. That is education, post-secondary education in America. And you are welcome to it, friends. You are welcome to it. Your college professor is starving. They more than likely teach at multiple institutions just to friggin' pay the bills. I'm serious. It's true. They do. That's a real thing. They don't make nearly enough money because they are adjunct. They are not tenure track. You don't even have to tell me who they are. I don't give a crap. I know how things go these days. They are adjunct. They are not tenure track because colleges are not offering tenure track positions like they used to. And they certainly won't offer them to people who get their degrees from that institution because the idea is that you have to go out into the world to bring prestige to the university that you graduated from. And you bring prestige by teaching elsewhere. And when people say, "Where did you learn all of these fantastical things, Professor?" you say, "I learned them at a university that wouldn't employ me. I know it doesn't make any sense, but that is the truth. Oh, and guess what? There aren't that many jobs available. Just there aren't. And if you do not get a tenure track position, which there are fewer and fewer of every single year, if you don't get one of these coveted tenure track positions, then guess what will happen? What will happen is that your degree will go stale. No, this is not a technical term by any means, but it is a firm belief of many people in academia that if you were a good candidate for employment, that you would have been employed in a tenure track position before now, and therefore, why should they hire you in a tenure track position when you aren't employed in a tenure track position now? It's like trying to get into the Screen Actors Guild, where like you can't get work if you're not a member of the guild, but you can't get into the guild unless you've got some work. Like, what? How is this supposed to work? You silly person. Yeah, it's a very similar thing. Except for people get into the Screen Actors Guild all the time because there are ways of getting non-union work, but there are surprisingly few ways of getting non-tenured tenure. What? That's not even a thing. Anyway, so yeah, ridiculous and silly. Yeah, so I got my master's degree, and then I was like, I would like to teach high school, please. I got hired to teach English at a high school, and they said, wow, that's ridiculous, because we require that you, in order to teach high school, that you either have a certification or that you spend 2 years of your life going through a certification program in which you will be a full-time student and a full-time teacher at the same time. And I said, that sounds like a lot of work. And they said, well, if you go to Rio Salado, it will be way more work than it needs to be. And I said, what? What was that last bit you said? And they said, nothing. Go to Rio Salado. And I said, oh, I understand that part. Go to Rio Salado. And then I went to Rio Salado and regretted every freaking minute of it for 2 years. It was terrible. And during those 2 years, during the first year, during my first year of teaching, anyone will tell you that your first year of teaching is horrible. And that you actively feel bad for any students that you have in your first year of teaching, because you are having to invent the concept of teaching on a daily basis. Like, because you have been taught theory, you have been taught best practice, you have even spent some time in a classroom, but it wasn't your classroom and they weren't technically your students. I mean, granted, some student teaching programs you do actually get your own classroom and students, but like a lot of them you don't. You just sort of work with a master teacher and you get like limited teaching experience, and then eventually, anyway, it's the whole thing. So yeah, I did my 2 years of teaching experience, during which my students never saw me with more than 3 hours of sleep. Ever. 2 years. And the only times I ever got more than 3 hours of sleep were Saturday nights. Well, no, Friday nights. Saturday nights, I got reasonable amounts of sleep, but Sundays are the big busy days for teachers. And Sunday nights, I never slept well. It was because I had so much work to do. And that's also due to incredible planning on the part of Rio Salado. That's when all of my mandatory, now we would call them Zoom meetings, is basically a Zoom meeting. Online class meetings, that's when all of those were. And so I had to be, it was mandatory. If you missed too many of them, you would lose credit in the class. and have to retake it. And so it was very important that you be there. And so I was there, except for, it was a whole dingus situation. Like, I could go on and on about this all night, but I feel like you're not gaining much from it, and neither am I. Here's the fact. Here's the point that I'm trying to make about this whole thing. Aside from all this business about how hard it is to be a first-year teacher, especially if you're in a teacher certification program, because not only are you having to invent the concept of teaching all the time, you're having to do homework in addition to inventing the concept of teaching every day, which is a full-time job in and of itself. Like, honestly, someone told me, and I do in fact believe that it's true, that if you took a first year teacher's salary and then divide it by the number of hours that they actually put in of work, devising curricula, creating lesson plans, creating slideshows, making documents, handouts, worksheets, etc., etc., etc. And even if I know people be like, well, just go on Teachers Pay Teachers and then just pay for your plan. First of all, it costs money. Second of all, like, you can't always use those things directly. You always have to adapt them to your needs and your situation. If you can actually use Teachers Pay Teachers stuff straight up, like, wow, congratulations to you. That's not how I teach. None of those resources ever met my particular teaching style, and nor did I feel like they particularly met my standards well, and so was constantly having to adapt them, even if I did try to buy things from Teachers Pay Teachers, so that I could have the experience of knowing. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Even if I did pay teachers so that I could have the experience of having someone else do lesson materials for me, like, there were never very many things that I could just take straight up out of the provided lesson materials and just use them directly, which is funny because, like, you'd think that you would be able to. Nope, you can't. You really, really can't. Because Teachers Pay Teachers is like, it's a lot of women who have a particular sort of cutesy style, which does not match my own teaching style. I'm sorry, like, that's just the way it is. So maybe a female teacher would have an easier time. I don't know. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with being female or cutesy. Like, I've seen some people use both of those things to great effect. It's just, when you're a teacher, what you can't be is fake, because students will see through you in a second, and they will give up on you just as quickly if you bring any level of fakeness into the classroom. It's true. Like, that's the terrifying part of teaching, is that you cannot be fake to your students because they will not abide by it. Anyway, so yeah. So I never saw my students on less than 3 hours worth of sleep. And here's the point that I've been trying to get at for like half an hour now. The point is that I developed sleepwalking for the first time in my life. It came out of nowhere, and I have no idea. Like, I had never done it before, and it's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing. People think like, oh, that might be fun to sleepwalk. No, it's not. You don't have control over your body. And I will tell you that what I was doing in front of my own family while sleepwalking, my wife and my children, was highly inappropriate. Highly inappropriate. I will not fill in that blank for you. I am sorry, because it is embarrassing to talk about the things that I did, which they had to be explained to me because I did not remember doing them because I was asleep at the time. And I wasn't even dreaming about the things that I was doing while sleepwalking. Or at least I don't remember dreaming about them. Anyway, so I completely lost control of my body and it felt terrible. And I was saying and doing seriously inappropriate things. And there was one time, only one time of which I am aware, where I sleepwalked at school. I was on my prep hour and I had, miraculously finished all of the things I needed to prep for my final hour of the day. And apparently, according to one of my students who is very shy and timid and did not talk a lot, so I was never really able to get the details of this story, so I cannot provide you with anything more than what I'm about to tell you. But apparently, I was on my prep hour, which was either third or fourth hour, like late in the day. We only have 4 hours of school here because we have the big block schedule. Anyway, so it was either third or fourth hour, whichever my prep was at the time, and they were in gym class, and gym class is chaos, and you got people like just dressing out way too early, walking out of gym class, and just hanging out by the drinking fountains with all their friends. They start texting their other friends who are in other classes, like, hey, come hang out with us by the drinking fountains, which are right outside my classroom. And then those students go and hang out, like they ask, like, hey, can I go to the bathroom? And then they just go hang out with their dingus, should be playing team sports or weightlifting friends, and they just hang out with them. Anyway, so a group of these kinds of boys were hanging out outside the drinking fountain. Apparently, on my prep hour, I fell asleep, but it was one of those I fell asleep and didn't notice it kind of sleeps, which happen to you from time to time. And I fell asleep, and I got up, I walked out of my classroom. There was a group of boys there standing by the drinking fountain, and I engaged them in conversation for how long I do not know. I don't know that I did anything else, but I'm glad that I've never been told that I did anything else, because some of the things that I did, once again, in front of my wife and children, highly inappropriate. Thank you very much. So yeah, this is, I don't have any string yet. That's going to be a problem. Anyway, so, I should make some friggin' armor now, because I can, obviously. Anyway, so, I don't have armor, do I? No, I don't. Anyway, so yeah, like, that story still terrifies me, because to lose control of your own body to that degree is scary. Like, people talk about, like, oh, I was blackout drunk and I don't know what happened. Ha 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 ha. Well, things that you do when you're blackout drunk are, relatively in line with what you would do while sober. It's just you're slightly less inhibited. But the things that you would do while asleep are way out there. Way out there. Things that you would say, things that you would do that you would never do in regular life. So it's a much different situation. Much. So yeah, I just, even now telling the story, it feels terrifying. So yeah, I can, the whole point is for me to say that I can empathize with people who suffer from epilepsy, because it is terrifying to know that you could ever lose control of your own body to a frightening degree like that. It's scary. It really is. Okay. See, that's one of the things I hate about Grognard Minecraft is that you really can't tell what time of day it is. Anyway, so yeah, like it is. Oh, jeez. Oh, there's a spider. Yay! I want to kill 2 spiders. Yay! Please give me spider web. You didn't give me spider web. Neither of you did. Stupid spiders. Oh, there's a jobby out there. Hey, jobby. Yeah, I need spider web. That's what I need. Anyway, so, yeah, you can feel free to bring it, Dingus. I'll show you what for. Anyway, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna find any spiders, which is really unfortunate. Anyway, so yeah, I can empathize with people who have epilepsy, not because I'm saying that sleepwalking is as bad as being epileptic. Obviously, sleepwalking can be cured, depending on the cause. I mean, your Mike Birbiglia types, he's going to be sleeping with mittens and a sleeping bag for the rest of his life, unfortunately. Whereas I just needed to get more friggin' sleep, which I do now, so, except for tonight. But it's the weekend, so I can be up till 1:21 in the morning telling stories about sleepwalking. Anyway, yeah, sleepwalking, not a fan. 0 out of 10, would not recommend, would not do again. What? I didn't get hunger from eating zombie meat? That's crazy. I didn't know that was a possibility. Anyway, I wish, I need string. That's what I need. Did any of these have abandoned mines or anything? I feel like there was an abandoned mine somewhere near my location that I ran into at one point and was upset that I found it. Anyway, so yeah, I'm not, please understand when I'm telling the story, I'm not making fun of women for having epilepsy. I'm making fun of this stupid friggin' idea of service dogs for anyone other than blind people. Okay? So, these dogs are supposed to alert us in the event of an epileptic seizure, which epileptic seizures, I've, been there for a few of them. They are terrifying if you're a bystander because, it's not a good time. It is so not a good time. It's really terrifying. It's not the sort of thing you want to be hanging around for, quite frankly. Anyway, so here's the fun thing with these 2 women and their dingus dogs. They're these dogs. Were these dogs quiet during church? No. They would just start barking randomly in the middle of church for no frick reason. And, everybody's trying to be a good Christian, and so they're just being like, oh, it's God's creatures. They're precious in their own preciousness. And people were just trying to bear with the fact that, here are these dingus dogs that are just with us, and that we just got to deal with the fact that there are dogs in the congregation. And we're like, well, we'll be very glad someday when these dogs warn us of the, impending seizure that is awaiting us, that will be so terrible that we have to, live through someone having a seizure. Anyway, so, yeah, we... Oh, hello, bouncy cattle. Uh, so yeah, the dreaded day arrives. Seizure in the middle of church. One of these 400 plus pound women starts violently shaking, and you can hear the rattling of the metal frame of her motorized hospital bed. And it is terrifying. If you've never been in the same room as someone who's having a seizure, do not recommend. Not a fun time. If you're the sort of person who doesn't enjoy reminders of the fragility of your own mortality or, your own good health, yeah, not a recommend. Don't pick up. It's not for you. It's not for fun. And so, yeah, one of these women started having a seizure and just violently shaking. And luckily, as I mentioned before, we had various medical professionals in the congregation who were more than ready and willing to help out. And help out they did. In what way, I don't know. But basically, like at one point, the most doctorly of them all was like, okay, I declare her to be fine. Seizure over. Go on with the preacher man. And so, but here's the funny thing. Guess what the dog did? Friggin' nothing. The dog did nothing. It didn't bark. It didn't squeal. It didn't seem all that concerned, as a matter of fact. And quite frankly, having watched the good doctor at work and seeing what he do when given the opportunity to ply his trade. Holy crap. Anyway, he did a wonderful job. And as I watched him work, at no point did I think, boy, I bet that man wishes he had a good dog at his side. At no point did that seem like a necessity. At no point did that seem like anything other than the most frivolous of luxuries. And, the woman had her seizure. Then she stopped having her seizure, and the doctor was on hand, and no one swallowed their tongue, and the dog would not have helped out with that, and I don't see how it possibly could have, and all was as well as could be expected. There you go. That's the story of Seizure Dog. Now we live in a time where people cannot take peanut butter sandwiches to school because there is, guaranteed a child whose parent has insisted upon the use of hand sanitizer to the point where the kid has developed multiple food allergies, including the most common of them all, the allergy to nuts. And, so nut allergy kid is out there being allergic to nuts, and his parents are like, please don't let anyone bring, please, for the love of God, don't let people bring peanut butter sandwiches to school because our kid is not to be trusted around things that could potentially kill them. Like we've banned all weapons in our household, all corners have been shaved off, all everything has been nerfed in our entire house, for lo, our child is made of stupid, and there is naught that we can do. Anyway, I don't think there's any way to get string from wool in this update or in any other. It was just wishful thinking. If you can't kill a spider, then what can you do? Anyway, so, the very idea of Dingus Dog being able to help out in that situation, like, what? And you hear stories of from time to time where people are like, oh, thank God for dog. And guess what? Sometimes, yeah. All the time? No. all the time? No. And if you can show me instances of thank God for dog that happened where I buy or eat my food, then you are magical. Because all of a sudden, every dingus who owns a best friend named Rover is suddenly very much into the business of like, oh, but Rover must come and, put his nose into the kumquats and, slobber his slobbers over every, succulent tomato. And it's the most freaking narcissistic thing I've ever seen in my life. It is absurd. It is terrible. And like, I need you to know from the bottom of my heart that if you are the sort of person who brings your dog to restaurants and stores and public places when it's not a service animal, a certified service animal. When I mean a service animal, I mean that you are blind and the dog is helping you to see. Because, like, correct me if I'm friggin' wrong, but for the longest goddamn time, that was the only reason why anyone would need a dog in public. Was like, oh, woe is me, for I am blind. But look, they have invented dog. Dog with eyesight and dog with ability to know the area and help me to cross the street without death. Yay for dog. And in that situation, indeed, yay for dog. Even a hard-hearted son of a bench like myself will say yay for dog in the instance, and in this instance specifically, of dog helping blind man cross a street in perfect and complete safety. Thank you, dog. Thank you for your service. For lo, you are an service animal. But all you freaking people who just bring your dog because you are, like, I don't know, so narcissistic, or you believe yourself to be more emotionally unstable than I myself am, which, like, oh, bring it. You think you're emotionally unstable? Have you seen what I bring to the friggin' table? Like, look, I have multiple kitty-type cats. I have a tortoise. I have 2 delightful lizards. Do I bring them with me everywhere I go? No. Why don't I bring them with me everywhere I go? Because I think it would be rude. I'm not even joking. I honest to God think it would be rude of me to assume that other people wouldn't mind me having my pets with me in places that are not for pets. Look, I'm not going to get mad at you if you take your dog to a dog park. Why? Because it's a dog park. Right? I'm not going to get mad at you if you have a dog in your truck and your dog is in your truck and he's your buddy and you're like, hey, buddy, you want to get in the truck? And he's like, I love being in the truck. And he's like, I stick my head out the window. And you're like, yeah, you're going to stick your head out the window. And then you're like, hey, buddy, I need to pop inside the store real quick. I'm going to roll the window down and you're going to bark at strangers like, and remind them of their unhappy childhood in which they formed no bonds with dogs of any meaningful sort. Anyway, like, look, there's a right way and there's a narcissistic way, and so many people these days are choosing the narcissistic way, and it's making me very upset because like, not everyone needs a dog. And it's this thing where, like, everybody's like, but what about my rights? What about my feelings? What about the fact that you're not blind? Like, if you're not blind, suck it up. You think I'm happy to be out and about? You think I'm emotionally, like, well when I'm out and about? No, I'm not. But you know what? I'm not putting the emotional baggage of my emotional well-being while I'm trying to be out and about and doing adult stuff. I'm not putting that emotional baggage on an animal that shouldn't have to take it. Like, and also dingus. Think about this for a goddamn minute. Like, you can't take a peanut butter sandwich into an elementary school, but you can take a dog when the most common of allergies is pet dander. And dogs make a lot of freaking dander. And so you have no regard whatsoever for other people and their potential issues, which may be of a medical nature, with your freaking dog, and you're going to bring it into the place where strangers, people that you do not know, buy food. What is wrong with you? Get your life in order, for the love of all things holy. I swear, like, why do you think you're so much more important than the rest of us? The rest of us have emotional baggage. Oh, but mine is special. Yeah, all of ours is special because it belongs to us, and we have to cope with it. But you know what? Like, it is a problem when you try to make it everybody else's problem. Like, I have a ton of emotional baggage. You can turn off this Minecraft video and not have to hear about it. Like, and quite frankly, I prefer that you would. I don't want anybody to hear this. This is for me. This isn't for you. God, like, you're so vain. You probably think this episode is about you. It's not. It's about me. Because it's for me. It's my channel. And look, I do everything I can to make sure that the YouTube algorithm ignores my channel completely. All of my video descriptions are complete and utter non sequitur. I make these lengthy, incomprehensible, rambling videos that no one but myself might have even the slightest interest in. I just do not do the sorts of things that people normally do to promote their channel. As a matter of fact, I had one person who was watching my channel with a fair degree of regularity, and I asked them to please stop. It's true. So, yeah, when I'm telling you that you're being narcissistic, you might want to listen because you're being narcissistic. Like, I have problems. You have problems. Everybody got freaking problems. How about you don't make your freaking dog a part of everybody's problems? And look, you can't tell me that I have to suck it up because everybody likes dogs, because I just explained to you why I don't like dogs. Because of terrible dog owners. Less to do with the dogs themselves, more to do with the terrible dog owners. And guess what? When you inflict your dog upon people who do not need to have dog inflicted upon them, like, you're being a terrible dog owner. It's a different kind of terrible dog owner. It's the wildly narcissistic rather than the neglectful. You're a helicopter parent to your dog, is what it is. There are two kinds of terrible parents, basically. You have your helicopter parents who never let their kids, do anything on their own. And then you have your neglectful parents who, never really care for their kids in the first place. And both of those sets of parents ruin their kids. And you are acting that way with your dog. So, please, for the love of God, if you hear this episode against my will, remember that I didn't want you to hear it, but let's assume that someone hears it and that they take notice that I am, kicking the shins of one of their sacred calves. Wait, kicking their shin calves. The calf, the sacred cow. Not the calf, your leg muscle, but kicking it in the shins. let's imagine that like you somehow are another person who is not me who has found this content, and that you are also one of these dog owners that I've been talking about. Look, I'll go get a shovel. I know that it bothers you that I'm not shoveling this right now, even though I have all of the materials to make a shovel, and my crafting table is literally right here. But look within your heart and understand that like there are other people in this world who are not you. And I don't know how you got to a place where you're like, other people, screw them. You know, like, I don't know how you got to that place. I wish that I could get to that place. Because then, I don't know, maybe put a tortoise in your friggin' soup. I don't know. Like, whatever. Try to, let my narcissism wreck your day a little bit. Anyway, like it's narcissistic, and you need to confront that. You need to own that. If you are not blind, if you are blind, congratulations. Like we have made accommodations for you. I think the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, is a fantastic thing. Do I think we could do better and more to bring awareness to the various issues and problems that people with various disabilities go through? Yeah, I sure think that there's a lot that could be done, but what is not helping is the idea that something that was made specifically for you because of your disability, which is something that we're trying to help you to be as capable of living a completely normal life without need of aid from other humans as much as possible. Like nobody wants to be an adult who feels like a child, and that someone has to constantly be looking out for them. No one wants to feel that way, and when you are a disabled person, very often like that can be the case. And so yeah, in order to aid you in not feeling that way, dogs, and also Americans with Disabilities Act, and also what else can we do? Tell us, what else can we do? Like, we'd like to do more. We'd like to do better. But anyway, people and their freaking dogs. I don't even know how I got on this topic. Because I was talking about other things entirely. Other things entirely. Don't blow me up, Freeper. I'm just sleeping. Okay, I just want a picture of a goddamn hot dog. I just want spiders so I can get string, make a bow, build my incinerator. Anyway, so yes, people. Yes, indeed. Narcissistic people with their friggin' dogs. And so, yeah, like, I've been in a room, and I know that anecdotal evidence is terrible evidence. Maybe there are specific, like, warning system type dogs that can, really do a magical friggin' job with, helping someone in a medical emergency that, they otherwise might have issues, but I don't know what that would be. I need to be educated on this. So if there's education that I lack, please give it to me. But honest to God, most of what I see is just pure unbridled narcissism. And I'm sorry. That's the way I see it. That's the way I call it. That's what we like here in America, right? Right? Calling it like it is. You and your dingus dog that you think needs to be with you at all times. Like, nope, does not need to be with you. It's just you being narcissistic and thinking that your dog is the best dog in the world, and that other people shouldn't mind having your dog around because isn't your dog delightful? Like, Anyway, regardless. So yeah, I don't know. I was talking about my week. Had a rough one. Okay, so the stupid preparing students for the standardized test that they do not want to take, which we do not want to administer to them, but the Pearson Corporation needs to make piles of money. Therefore, we administer the stupid test. Because ours is not to question why, ours is but to administer stupid tests when one needs to, because, you gotta make money for that Pearson Corporation. Anyway, I'm gonna harvest my wheat. Wait, where's that spider? I heard a spider. Where is it coming from? So I've been over there. I'm gonna come up here and take a look. Anyway. Oh. Las Yaras. Where is that spider? Y'all heard it, right? The of the spider. The little sucking saliva noise that spiders make. Oh, that's terrible. I'm glad I didn't fall down there. Anyway, well, I guess we're not getting our string today. String remains a theory. Anyway. But narcissism, la da 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 da. Talk about dinguses, talk about my week. Oh, standardized testing that nobody wants except for Pearson. Yeah, that's totally a thing. So yes, Pearson Corporation and their need for fiscal stability. They got to have people taking tests, whether those tests are effective measures of student achievement or not, and emphasis on the not, because they are wildly flawed. Do you know how many kids in the state actually pass those assessments? 40%. 40% pass. And that's not like ace it, kill it. That's like not fail. 40% of kids don't fail the exam. And that is it. That is all there is. And so it's like, you have to ask yourself, like, okay, is it that 60%, is it 60% of our kids who are just utter crap academically, and everyone else is doing fine, but we just have these idiots, the 60% are idiots? No. And I used to think that, it was that the test is wildly flawed in how difficult it is. That's partially true. It is. It's not just difficult. It's often skewed in a way that is wildly unfair, from a racial or, I don't know, that's skewed in a number of ways. If you don't know about racial bias in standardized testing, well, look it up. It's totally a thing, and it is very much the case. I had never even considered it till I was in college, and a Greek woman was explaining to me how, the American bias on the standardized tests that she had to take made them much more difficult and made her score much lower than she otherwise would have, given her, academic proficiencies when she was studying in her homeland. Anyway, this is interesting, and certainly a cause for concern and a reason for us to look inside and wonder if we're actually doing a decent job. Anyway, So, yeah, all the biases, all the problems. I used to think that it was just the test. I've come to see that it's also the students. Because the students, and it's not that the students are dumb. No, on the other hand, it is the students are smart enough to know what doesn't matter. And if you tell a student, like, hey, take this test, and they're like, okay, is it a part of my grade? No. Well, does it go on my permanent record? Well, probably technically, yeah, but not in a way that any college or university or even the military, if you're going into the military, not in the way that any post-secondary program would ever give a crap about. And then they say, oh, interesting that you admit such things to me. Fascinating. What with your telling me that this test is ultimately meaningless as far as I am concerned. So you want me to do what with this test? And then you say as a teacher, like, I would like you to try hard on it. Because a portion of my pay is determined on whether or not you try hard on this test. And they're like, yeah, that's not a very good reason. And you say, what about our school label? Oh, we get a school label. And those school labels are very important so that people can make school choice. Clinton administration, school choice, And, and the kids are like, well, I live here, so I have to go to this school. That's the way it works. The school label is utterly meaningless to me. It seems like something for y'all that y'all give a crap about, but not something that I necessarily need to give a crap about. And you say to the student, you make a fair point. My God, you are a brilliant debater. And indeed, the student is 100% correct on this. That, they have no dog in this fight. They have nothing to lose from failing the test. They have nothing to gain by acing it. And so, how do you think the students are going to do on the test? Well, they're going to do a piss poor job of it, just like you would do. Like, imagine if somebody was like, hey, you know how you have this job, whatever it is that you do for a living? They're like, we're going to give you a test on your ability to do this job. And you're like, oh, will it, control whether or not I continue to have gainful employment? And then they say, no, don't be ridiculous. That's not what we're here to do. And you say, okay, then, so it doesn't affect whether or not I have gainful employment. Does it affect my evaluations in any way? Like if I, go elsewhere and try to get a job? Does it affect, my licensing, my ability to continue to be licensed and bonded or whatever professional licensing or certification I have for my position? And they say, no, it doesn't affect your licensing whatsoever. And you say, oh, so I have to take this test. Boss man says, yep. And then you say, but it doesn't affect me in any way if I fail it. Nope, it sure doesn't. Okay then, boss man. Boy, sure can't wait to try super hard on this test. Oh, it sounds like just a grand old time trying hard on this test. Boy, I sure am glad I thought about trying hard on this test. 'Cause, man, guy like me sure could use a good test to try hard on. Like, do you see where the flaw in the logic is? Because I'm telling you, educators see it, they know it, they deal with it on a daily basis. Politicians do not. They're like, oh, but if they take a test, then I can have my complete lack of understanding about education, and then I can, still be able to point to a number. And even with my complete lack of understanding about education, I can point to a number and say, this number is lower than it used to be. Explain. And that's literally how education works in America. It's a bunch of dinguses who don't know anything about education, telling those of us who do work in education how to do what we already know how to do, and gumming up the works with pointless nonsense, pointing at numbers and telling us, like, make the number go up. And you're like, I can't, because there's no incentive for the people who make the number what it is. Stupid. Like, you make the number go up. Like, God knows you could put in place programs to make that number go up that I would have no control over and that I would have to follow regardless, because that's what you do. You're the one who's the decider. You're the decider. You decide that we're going to leave no child behind and we're going to make this happen. Oh, hey, are you trying to climb the stairs? Oh, that's so cute. I didn't know slimes could climb stairs. I'm going to let this one live. I'm going to let him go. Like, climb the stairs. Live your life, slime. Don't even come at me, bro. Don't come at me. I'm going to get away from you much faster than you're prepared for. And then I'm going to double back, and then I'm going to let you live on dry land. Slime, I want you to be happy and be free. Anyway. So, yeah, these are the tests that I've been prepping students for months. And a process I did not enjoy in the slightest. And, you know, then it was time to take the test. Well, you know, as I said before, we have 4 hours of school. Well, the hours are 87 minutes long. They're almost an hour and a half each. And we get a prep hour in the middle of the day. Every teacher gets a prep hour. And I know what that sounds like to those of you. It sounds like, oh, so you get a big freaking break in the middle of your day where you're not doing anything. And it's like, yeah, well, except for, that's a thing that a lot of people get, you know? Like, most of you get an hour for lunch. We don't. We get a half an hour, you know? And also, like, most of the time on my prep hour, I am prepping. Have I recorded episodes for my channel during that time? Yeah, I have. But that is the exception. That is not the rule. That doesn't happen the vast majority of the time. And when it does happen, I'm doing it because typically I'm having a rough time and I need something to calm my nerves and to help me feel better, which is why I play Minecraft and talk into a microphone. It's the entire reason why I do this is to help my own mental stability. This is self-care in action right now. This is what you're seeing, this is what you're hearing. So, yeah. Don't get all judgy with like, oh, you teachers, you get so much time off. People say that all the time, and they don't even know. You're as bad as Scott Walker, the former governor of Wisconsin, who wanted to abolish teachers' lounges because he's like, why are the teachers lounging? We need them working. And it's like, hey, stupid. Do you know what a teacher's lounge is? It's where they keep the copier and the mailboxes. Like, so you get your mail, you make your copies, you stand in line to make your copies. Oh, is that lounging? Because you're standing. You have to stand there at our school. I don't know how it is at other schools. Do they have, you know, awesome they got like masseuses on staff to like calm your troubled nerves and like, no, like, I swear to God, you go into any teacher's lounge in America, and what you're going to find is the bare minimum of, like, break rooms at Costco are more entertaining and delightsome in their design than your average teacher's lounge. Because teacher's lounges are a place where teachers get work done. More often than not, 99.99% of the time, you go into a teacher's lounge and it's going to be work. Was the exception during Teachers Appreciation Week? Sometimes someone brings in food. Like, And then the teachers will gather and eat food while they're making their copies. And then people always do the thing like, oh, well, don't you get every summer off? Yes and no. Yes and no, because technically, yes, you get the summer off, but also, are you paid for that? No. Usually, what they'll do is they'll adjust your pay so that you get paid over the course of the year rather than, so that you're still being paid over the summer, even though you're technically not being paid for those months where you're not working. But also during those months where you're not working, guess what? They have a thing called professional development. And in order to hold down your certification, you have to get a certain number of hours of professional development, which is what a lot of teachers use summer for. So they go to conferences and they go to workshops and they my wife is going to have to start doing externships, working for no money. Like she's going, because she teaches graphic design, she's going to go to some local graphic design firm and say, hey, can I work for you for no money? And they'll say, yeah. And she'll say, sweet. So this will fulfill the hours of doing this that I have to do to maintain my job. There's a lot of stuff that goes, and also that's to say nothing of the fact that most good teachers, now if you're a crappy teacher, you don't have to do this, but most good teachers will revisit their curricula and they will say, okay, what didn't work this year? And what do I want to do better for next year? How do I want to tweak this? How do I want to make it better for next year's students? That's what your good teachers are doing. And the vast majority of teachers that I know are of that type, where they're actively thinking about the students and they're actively trying to make things better for them. So, if you're a teacher, you work lawyer hours for librarian pay. And I'm not kidding about librarian pay. I was a librarian and I made as much as I make as a teacher. So, and I work, I don't know, 5 to 7 times as hard as a teacher as I did as a librarian. I love libraries. They are great. It's more work than you think, but however much work you think teachers do, it's more than that. Unless you are a teacher, in which case you're like, no, it's exactly as much as I think because I am one, and it's a lot. Anyway, and if you're a good teacher, it's so much more. It's so much more investment. And guess what? The fun part about being a good teacher is that, like, you don't get paid anymore for all the extra work that you do. It's just that they have you over a barrel. Teachers do not have leverage because they care about the kids. Ultimately, that's the problem. The problem is the teachers actually, like, no teacher anywhere is like, I do it for the sweet pay, because nobody's getting paid enough. And quite frankly, anybody who does not have teaching in their blood is not going to last. Most people are out of teaching as a profession within 5 years. And why? Why are we losing teachers within 5 years? Because it's freaking hard, and because not everybody is built for it, and not everybody is willing to do what it takes for what they're getting paid. Saw a very sad news bit on a woman who was the teacher of the year in her district, a beloved science teacher who was quitting as a middle-aged woman to start a quick turnaround nursing degree program because she would make so much more money as a first-year nurse than she would make as a long-time beloved science teacher of the year in her district. We are sucking it up at taking care of our teachers in America, and all those of you who think that, oh, you get so much time off, that must be so nice. Talk to a teacher. Like, do they always seem frazzled? Do they always seem like they don't have enough time, like there are not enough hours in the day to do everything that they need to do? Because, like, I was talking with one of my colleagues about it just this week. You know, he coaches our esports team. And why does he coach our esports team? Honestly, because I refuse to do it. But I refuse to do it because I want to be able to see my kids. You know, um, like that is for real. I'm not joking about that. Like, um, if I coach the esports team, I would be at the school for an additional 2 hours every day, in addition to the time that I'm already there, which is already quite a bit. Because I show up early every day, because I'm one of those teachers who shows up early because I need to get stuff done, because there's always more work to do than there is time to do it in. And so yeah, I would be there for an extra 2 hours. And what would I get paid for an extra 2 hours? Because esports is a year-round sport. There is no off season. It goes all the time. And so you have to have those kids in your classroom practicing, Smash Bros. And League of Legends, which I know sounds like, oh, wouldn't that be fun? Yes and no. Yes and no. Like, I mean, could you, oh, geez, Melise. Could you imagine if at your work they were like, hey, we're going to have a Call of Duty team and we need you to coach it. And here's what you're going to do. You're just going to stay here for 2 extra hours every day. And you'd be like, well, how much do I get paid for this lots of extra work that I'm doing? I'll tell you exactly how much you get paid. To do it year round, you get paid an extra, get ready for this, $1,500. $1,500. That is, for a lot of adults, one paycheck. And for a lot of teachers, that's a couple of paychecks. I mean, depending on where you are, for real. But yeah, like, it is not a lot of money, and you pour so much into it. And so why would a person give up so much of their personal time for something for which they are not fairly compensated? Well, it's because of this. It's because if you don't do it, little Timmy isn't going to be able to play esports. And that is the only thing that son of a... Why were you right there, creeper? Why were you right there? I didn't even see him. Oh, string. Yes. Anyway. So, yeah, it's just... This is very upsetting that people don't understand what teachers do. And I'm not saying that, like, we don't go into it with a certain knowledge of some of these things. Certainly some of them. The reason why most people who become teachers leave within 5 years is because they were not prepared for some of the extensions of what it means to be a teacher. Because, you're like, I get it. I generally understand what it means to be a teacher. Yeah, maybe. Anyway, I do not like these grognard creepers. They're so much sneakier than the newer ones. Anyway, so I have one string. I only need 2 more of those, and I will be able to build a dropper, which is a key ingredient for my incinerator build. Anyway, yeah, I gotta rebuild my crafting table. Luckily, I have all this stupid dirt and all this useless beauty. Anyway, so yeah, teachers underappreciated. I could go on and on, but you either get it or you don't freaking care, and you're like, this is the profession you've chosen, and like, it's your own stupid fault. But guess what? Somebody has to educate the children. And wouldn't you want it to be someone who is, number one, eminently qualified, number two, actually gives a crap about the kids and their education? Uh, you know, wouldn't you want it to be people who have these bare minimums? Of course you do. And there's never been a time where parents are more likely to yell at a teacher because of some perceived issue, or perhaps a real issue. In my case, it's always perceived. That's some bull crap. I'm just kidding. I mean, I understand. I've never had an angry parent that I could not, whose anger I could not assuage with a decent explanation of like, well, you see, little Johnny here is what we in the profession like to call a piece of crap. He's a crap student. You need to know this. He should have told you by now. And really, the everything about him should have clued you into the fact that he is not good. No, I've never said that to a parent, nor would I. Most of my students are just completely delightful, and I really, truly like them as human beings. I do. This is largely the case. Anyway. Huzzah! Bread have. Anyway, bread have achieved. Okay, it's going to drop some things into some things like we care about things. Oh, you precious, precious string. I'm going to keep you forever. You're precious. My precious. Anyway, yeah, just go on and on about education. But what I'm really trying to get to is the fact that my dingus department chair and my colleague is not a dingus. She had a flight get canceled. She had no control over it. She knew that she needed to be back for testing day. She was not able to be back for testing day. That sucked. It was bad. Dingus department chair knew even better that it was testing day, knew even better that she was needed for the testing, took a personal day, which how did that get approved, and went camping. And it's like, what? What is that? Anyway, I shouldn't say such things. I'm spreading gossip and truth hoods about people whose names you do not know. Anyway, but yeah, she went camping when she was supposed to be proctoring a test. So what did that mean for me in my life? Well, it meant that first thing in the morning, soon as I got to school, the principal came to me looking like rotten death, looking like, someone had just handed him a ticking bomb, and that he was supposed to figure out how to disarm it with no prior training whatsoever. Anyway, so yeah, my principal was there, and he said, "Hey, we have 2 teachers out today. We're gonna need you to proctor standardized testing all day." When I was normally only scheduled to do it for a portion of the day. And I was like, all day? And he's like, yeah, you're going to miss all your classes. We will get all of you. Because, I have upperclassmen, lowerclassmen are taking the test. That's the way we currently have it set up. It'll change again at some point, I'm sure. Because the only constant in education is pointless change, which is completely inexplicable other than the fact that governments change from time to time and therefore requirements change because governments are not consistent and state governments are often very much like a chicken with their head cut off or a right arm stabbing a left arm while neither is aware of what is happening. Um, anyway, yeah. It's funny because I do have a certain hope that a random teacher from not my district will find this and they'll be like, "What? Your department chair took a personal day on standardized test day? What the crap?" Yeah, and to the rest of you, they'll be like, "I don't know why that would be a thing. Like, people cover other people's stuff all the time. When you're a teacher, it's different. Your class is really your class. It's not, you can't just, wheel it somewhere else and be like, well, I'm going to do this at my desk now. It's not the same. This is very much not the same. And when you spend months helping prepare students for the taking of a test that that they are supposed to know that you're going to be there to proctor them, and then you're not there to proctor them. And why aren't you there? Well, because you went camping for no reason. Took that personal day. Like, what? Anyway, I feel like any teacher in the continental United States and potentially Alaska and Hawaii would listen to what I've just said and they would be like, why are you not more furious right now? That is bullcrap. Because there have been no consequences whatsoever for these teachers who missed standardized testing. But meanwhile, myself and my colleague got called in to standardized test all day, which is a friggin' slog. I tell the students that hey, at least you have a test to take. Because they'll complain about God, I can't listen to my music, I can't do anything. And you're like, first of all, be more dependent on your phone, dingus. How about be where you are for a goddamn second? No child between the ages of, I don't know, whenever they get cell phones nowadays, and the age that and adulthood, because once they're an adult, they're no longer a child. That's how I figure it. Anyway, anyway, none of them are able to cope with even the slightest bit of boredom. Boredom used to just be a fact of childhood. You just used to have to deal with it. And these kids think they know what boredom is because they're like, I'm not watching a YouTube video right now. I'm bored. You think you're bored. You've never sat on on the backward facing seat of a station wagon. Yes, a long dingus kind of car that they really don't make anymore. And you sit in the seat that faces backward for reasons that I cannot fathom. Faces the opposite way of everybody else, so you're not even getting the same drive as everybody else, and you just stare out the back, and that's it for 16 hours. I kid you not, that's how long it took to get from my house that I grew up in to my paternal grandmother's house. 16 hours, and we would do that drive in a single day. Sometimes we'd break it up over 2 days and we'd, see my great grandmother. Sometimes we'd only stop and see her on the way back. But yeah, either way, we would be taking essentially a 16-hour trip. And the only entertainment that we had would be like coloring books. My mom would just like uh she took a bunch of like discarded blue jeans. This is going to sound like the most like I lived through the depression story ever to kids from today. They're not going to understand any of these words. Anyway, so my mother took old discarded blue jeans and she sewed them into a big thing that fit like a sort of blanket but with all the pockets still intact. And it fit over the back of the seat in front of us. And and so I had access to that once I was old enough to sit in the frontward facing seat. When I was still in the backward facing seat, we just had, a pile of random things. And the things that we had were, coloring books, Berenstain Bears books that we'd read a million times, Garfield books that we'd read a million times, and I don't remember much else. We didn't have like portable video gaming had not even really been invented. I mean, you had like your Tiger electronic football or whatever, but I was not a football fan, and my parents were not fans of shelling out way too much money for personal electronic devices for children. And so eventually I worked my way up to having a cassette player. Yes, cassette player. A personal cassette player, and I could listen to music for upward of 4 of those 16 hours until the batteries went and then that was it. That was all she wrote. Then I'd have to wait until we got to Grandmama's house and then find a device that wouldn't miss its batteries so much. And oh yes, a creeper's probably gonna blow up in my face right now because I'm so happy. Anyway, okay, yes, we can do it. I've got 6-string now. I can make a guitar. Anyway, so yeah, kids these days, they don't understand boredom. They think they do, but they do not. And they will talk about oh, this test is so boring. And it's like, oh, you poor little thing. Oh, I can't believe that you're bored for a short period of time. At most, these kids get to be bored for upwards of an hour and a half at most. An hour and a half at a time, and then I release them back to their original classes. Ugh. And then they just whine and complain about it. I can't believe. And I have no sympathy for their nonsense. Believe me, none whatsoever. Anyway, so yeah, the kids complain about the boredom. They are full of crap. The boredom is not worth complaining about. Because they have not known true boredom, like those of us who lived back in the day do. You remember back in the day? Anyway, so I had to proctor AZ Merit all day. Sorry, I was trying not to get, but I've talked about the fact that I live in Arizona, so whatever. AZ Merit, the Dingus test, which replaced the Dingus test, and is now, someday soon, as far as I've been told, going to be replaced by a Dingus test, which I will have to prep students for, I have no doubt. At which, if my freaky department chair takes off on test day again, swear to God, anyway, so yeah, had to do that all day. It was terrible. But you know what I did while proctoring the exam? I got a ton of grading done. And then what did I do after I got the ton of grading done? I got more tons of grading done. So I came home after a day of proctoring tests and doing all that, and I had more grading to do. And it's my own dingus fault that I had as much grading to do as I did. But also, it's the fault of me teaching college classes with heavy expectations, um, and lots of writing, because, it's the equivalent of English 101 and 102. So you have to do all of the writing that you would normally get in those courses. And at the end of every year, I have to go to an what's it called? They call it articulation meeting, something of the sort. Basically, I have to make an accounting and say, like, how can they trust that my classes have been rigorously rigorous? To which I say, well, stupid. Uh, I don't use those exact terms. I say, you hire me to teach your night classes at the college, and you pay me for that. So, which, yeah, that's another way that you get college professors, is that they're actually secretly high school teachers who are doing a favor to the local college by, teaching a class that they otherwise wouldn't teach. Anyway, or in my case, teaching a class that they are already teaching and just adding to the amount of grading that they have to do and the amount of lecturing that they have to do, essentially doubling both the lecturing and, there's no redstone blocks yet. That's crazy. You can't block stuff up yet in 1.0. Wow. Wow. That's crazy. Wow. Owen Wilson thinks it's nuts that you can't. Wow. No redstone blocks, huh? Anyway, that's not even as good as Melissa Valles-Senor. Anyway, so yeah. Did Dingus AZ Merit, did a ton of grading. Had issues with my AC. I was on the third week of no air conditioning in Arizona in a month where it finally becomes so hot that all of the people from Minnesota who have been living here over the winter finally decide that they have had enough. They finally go back and pester all of you people from Minnesota with your, being from Minnesota and whatnots. Wait. Oh, that's right. It's the other way around. Dingus. Dingus a Kringus. Oh, I think I need redstone for this too. Or do I? Yeah, I think I do. I need redstone anyway because I need to make redstone torches and I need to make a repeater. So, and we need to bake some stone as well. We need to bake exactly 1, 2, 3 of those for reasons that you probably know if you know what goes on in the world of Minecraft crafting. Recipes dispenser. That's right, because it can't do a dropper or a hopper. Anyway. Oh, I shouldn't have made that much glass. Oh well. I did. It happened. We all saw it. Anyway, so yeah. You know what? I'm going to take half of these. I'm going to put them in here. Because I'm running through my brain of all the things I need to do to make this work. Okay, because I'm going to need, boop. I'm going to need a lever or a switch. Yeah. I'm going to need 3 redstone torches or just 2. I don't remember. It's one or the other. Make 2 for now and we'll see how many I need. Oh, right, because I need to take this stone and I need to go, is it this and then this? Yeah, it is. Okay. Oh, that's right. And I need another redstone torch just for good measure. Not just for good measure. It's because I actually really need it. I need this glass. I need this glass. Sorry that I used up all your stuff. I need my bucket of lava. There we go. Anyway, once I get this established, then I'll basically go to bed. Because it is ridiculously late. It's funny, my colleague was asking me, or like he was saying, he's like, I'm not like him. I don't have time to play Minecraft. And, you know, we are good friends. And so I don't take umbrage at all. I'm not upset that he was calling me out like this guy over here he has time to play Minecraft. I do have time to play Minecraft because I take time to play Minecraft. If I didn't take the time, I would not have the time. I'm telling you. That's the only way I get it. Because it does. Oh, jeez. Yeah, I am so smart. I am so smart. S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-T. Anyway. So, da, 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 da. Okay. There you go. That's the mechanism. That's what makes it go. So basically, here's what's happening. You're getting a repeater. When you flip the switch, sends the signal, which gets interrupted by the redstone torch. As the redstone torch lights up, the redstone on the ground goes out, and vice versa. The repeater makes it keep going, and it just basically blinks on and off. It's a pretty simple construction. Anyway, dig out one hole right here. Now, granted, I could bury all the stuff. I've said this before in other episodes. I could bury the stuff if I wanted to, but I don't want to. Why would I bury it? Like, it's a machine of a certain intricate beauty. I didn't invent building these things, by the way, not by any ridiculous measure. Like, I am simply a beneficiary of processes that others have come across. Now, normally, if I was not playing Grognard, there would be a chest, there would be a, this would be a dropper, not a dispenser. There would be a hopper on top of that, and then on top of the hopper, you would have a chest. So that you can fit the most possible items in. But with this, you only get 9 squares. But I can take all of this cobblestone, which I don't have room for in my chest. Take all of this, put it in here. Take this dirt, put it in there. There you go. And those are the unwanted bits, the leftovers. And then look, it gets torched. It's the same as pushing Q and throwing things in yourself, only you don't have to throw it in yourself. This machine does it for you. Anyway, that's how to build a simple Minecraft incinerator. in Grognard in Minecraft 1.0.0. So that's how you do that. Anyway, people, have I said everything that I needed to say? No, not necessarily. Let's continue for a little bit. I'll just mine for a little bit, and then I'll go to bed. So yeah, colleague was like, "Oh, I'm not like this guy. I don't have time to be playing Minecraft," which I really don't. I really don't. Like, look, I don't know if you can see this. 2:35 a.m. And tomorrow is a day that is going to be full of nothing but planning and grading. That's all I'm going to be doing tomorrow. And I've got a ton of both because we're getting down toward the end of the semester, and I just have a ton of both. Like, there's no two ways around it. And, like, how many of you bring your work home and don't get paid for bringing your work home, but would be fired if you don't get the work that you need to do at home done? Like, not a lot of people have jobs that meet that description. And most people would tell you, like, whoa, that's how your job works? Like, maybe don't keep that job. Say most people. I'll just put this back and then burn through those 2 charcoal, and then we'll be back to business with actual coal. Anyway, yeah, staying up late on a day when I've got a ton to do. So yeah, I did a ton of grading, and there have been a lot of, there's been so many issues, and I've had, like, we had our first fights on campus this week because freshman girls are stupid because they don't realize that freshman boys are not worth it. Because freshman boys... Okay, you're going to think I'm a bad teacher for saying this, but you can't treat freshman boys like you treat people. And I know that sounds terrible, but any teacher will tell you, like, no, that's actually true. Because you can't show them any humanity. You can't show them any sign of weakness whatsoever. They will eat you alive. They're the most terrifying people on the planet, freshman boys. Because they've got nothing to lose, and they've got everything to prove. Because they used to be the top of the totem pole, and now they're the bottom of the totem pole, and they are pissed. They could not be more upset about this fact. Oh, is that water? Didn't I see a blue drip from above? Anyway, regardless. So... yeah, freshman boys, you really, really can't treat them like everybody else. And yeah, so we had our first fights this week, which is really upsetting. I had so many students collapse into tears this week because everybody's going through crap. Like, everybody's going through crap. Like, I talk to my students about mental health issues and about depression all the time because, nobody ever talked about it with me, and it would have been helpful if I'd ever heard an adult say, hey, I suffer from depression. It's really hard sometimes. This is what it feels like. This is how you can know if you might need to talk to someone about it. And it's okay. They have medications. And if you take your medication, it really can help. But you're going to have to stick with it and find the right medication and find the right mental health professionals to help you out. All the things that somebody should have told me. Kids all the time, they do this thing like, oh, why don't they tell us anything that's useful in the real world? Meanwhile, I'm like, take care of your mental health. They're like, yeah, that's not for the real. Yes, it is, dingus. It's for the real world. Like, I don't know if anyone's giving you any better advice than I am giving you right now. Talk to someone about the crippling depression that you probably have because you are a teenager who is alive right now. It's a rough time. Anyway, so yeah, multiple students broke down crying. one of them more than once, just bawling, bawling his eyes out because he feels that he has no friends, even though everybody likes him and everybody thinks that he is great, but he just like it's hard. I think that like he doesn't feel as close and as connected as he'd like to be. Um, but those are things that come with time, and I feel like he's, feeling that he'll never get there, that he'll always be an outsider, even though he's not. I mean, these are things that high schoolers deal with and always have, and it's really rough. And then there's a bunch of other stuff going on that, like, especially when you're dealing with kids coming from poverty and kids, yeah. There's just a bunch of, like, man, I've got students with situations that they're dealing with right now I wouldn't give to a dog, and you know how I feel about dogs. And how I feel about dogs is like mostly at this point it's like I understand because I have cats now, and so I finally understand like how loving a mammal can be, and how like utter like, because I have a cat who just loves me. She just loves me, and not any other members of the family does she love the way that she loves me. She loves me the most, and like just has to be with me, and has to, sit on my chest and run her paws through my beard, and like just love me. And she purrs so freaking loudly. It is so delighted when she is spending special alone times with me. So yeah, I get it. Like the part that I always missed with dogs that I never had was the camaraderie. The part where someone's happy to see you, where someone is, a good companion, and all of those things. Like I never had that. Never had that part of being a dog. I only had the part that, like, if you're a dog owner and if you're a good one, you sort of take, the fact that like, oh well, I better, put my hand inside this plastic baggie and handle some, warmish dog crap, because this is what love looks like. I get it. I mean, I scrape out my cat's poop and pee like all the time. Well, hers and the other cats as well. The other cats that I don't love nearly as much. Anyway, it, regardless, like I understand it, you silly dog owners with your dog issues. But I'm telling you, I would not give some of my students and the situations they have to deal with in their life, I wouldn't give to a dog. And that's really sad. It's really tragic, some of the things that they have to face down at young ages, too. Like so many of them are having to face adult-sized problems when they are not adults. And they are not ready for those kinds of things yet. Heck, I'm not ready for them, and I'm in my 40s. I'm 41 years old. I know you were thinking mid 40s. You just pump them brakes, son. I am younger than you think. Not by much, but by a little bit. Anyway, so it was just a rough week, and the funny thing about it is that it really felt like this week was 3 weeks long. The funniest thing is that our first week back from spring break, which was an interesting thing because last year we went on spring break and we just never came back. School was, we went distance learning, but nobody knew how to do it. And lots of people got a free pass when they shouldn't have gotten a free pass. And then we just sort of, limped to the finish line over the last, few months of the school year. It's actually the last quarter of the school year. We were 3/4 of the way done with the school year. The last 1/4, we just, dragged our feet across the finish line and collapsed in a heap. So we did great. Anyway, so yeah, coming back after spring break, there was a part of me that was like, oh God, what if we don't come back? Because people were like, spring break, we're going to go to stupid Florida and stupid Arizona and just bring all of our diseased faces and not give a crap about public health. It's like, oh, why do you have to be the way you are? Like, come on. We could have a society in which people actually give a crap about others, or we could just do like you and just be the worst. Anyway, um, so yeah, that first week back from spring break, everybody's like, "Man, this week is taking forever," and I was like, "Well, for it being the second week back from spring break, I don't think it took that long." And they're like, "Hey, it's still the first week back," and I'm like, "Oh, I see what you mean." I was absolutely positive that we were in the second week back when it was only the first week, and I'm like, "Yeah, this is taking forever." And so this week was one of those where it's like it really felt like 3 weeks long. And so when I finally got to the weekend, I needed it badly. And then, I've had my weekend and it has not been as relaxing and fulfilling as I've needed it to be. Like my wife and I, my lovely, delightful wife and I, we had some conflict, which, like, there is no marriage that is absolutely conflict free. I would say that we had a fight, but we weren't really yelling at each other. We were just frustrated with each other for not communicating better the things that, we were feeling over a period of time, not that long a period of time. But we just, there were some pent up feelings that she needed to share. And I was like, "You're still on about this? Isn't this over? Didn't I indicate that it was over and it's not a concern and we need to just move on?" And she's like, "But I'm still dealing with it and I'm still concerned because it affects me as well, dingus." And I was like, "But I feel like I'm in trouble and I already dealt with it. Why am I being taken to the principal's office of marriage?" And it's funny because, like, all of the stupid stand-up comedian stuff about, like, oh, women, they just dredge up the stuff. It's like, yeah, that it's not like, I don't know, maybe comedians are married to terrible women. My wife is lovely and delightful, and she's never dredging anything up because, she's trying to stick it to me and be like, "Ha, you forget that I remember the stupid thing you said last week," which is the joke that all hackneyed comedians make. Hold up. I need water. Now, where was I? Oh, yes. My lovely wife does not just dredge up stuff for the sake of dredging stuff up. It's not the way she operates. Not the way our marriage operates, because, we have that weird thing where we love each other and actually care about each other. So, your hackneyed comedians can have the whole, like, oh, these women and their feelings. But the number of times that I've come to my wife when it's bedtime, and I am a flibbertigibbet. Look at how long I've talked in this episode. And it's just me. Like, most podcasts don't run episodes as long as I just sit and talk by myself when I'm playing Minecraft. My video game reviews are outlandishly long. Most people's video game reviews are like 5 minutes, but that's because they edit footage, and I'm like, edit? What does that mean? Anyway, so yeah, my lovely wife and I were having conflict. We weren't yelling or shouting, but it was an emotionally charged moment. Um, and she told me in retrospect that, like, that it was as close as she has ever come to actually yelling at me. Uh, because, yeah, to me, emotionally, I was so over the thing that, like, here's what it was. I'm not going to tell you exactly what it was because I feel like you will judge me even harder than you already have. But I did something stupid. No, not anything like that. Like not a like betrayal of our marriage. Like in my professional life at school, I uh, said something really insensitive to someone, um, and I said it for a reason which it was a pure reason that I had for saying it. I wasn't just saying it to be a jerk. I was trying to light a fire under somebody and make them do better. And I already tried many other different things. And guess what? Like I've found with some people that if you berate them, it actually motivates them more. And so if I'm engaging in that type of motivation, first thing I do is let the person know I am going to berate you so that you get motivated. I'm going to say mean things about you to your face so that you will work. And I know, and it's always with boys, by the way, that I don't see that working with girls. I've never had a female student that would work with. Um, but yeah, I was doing something of that nature with a boy, but the tack that I took was wrong, and I freely admit that it was wrong, and even admitted it at the time. But the missus felt like I was being careless, and that I was, like, because she really cares about, like, am I, like, what if someone from administration had been there and had seen me berating a student completely out of context, which is the only way they would have been able to take that in, is like without the context of like, dealing with issues with this person for multiple weeks and trying to get them to change their ways and come around and do just the bare, like I set the bar very low and they continue to limbo under it rather than hop over it. And it's like, it's not even a hop. You just have to lift your foot a little. Like, just come on. Just lift one foot, just one foot. And they're like, no, I would rather be the laziest and the worst. Anyway, so like I was wrong. Like I was wrong. I am wrong. I have been wrong. Guess what, people? Learn to say those words. I mean, there's also the joke that like, people say the best marriage advice, man, just learn how to say these words. I'm wrong and I'm sorry. Well, guess what? Like, sometimes you're going to be wrong and you should say you're sorry. And it's, like the people will tell you that jokingly, like, oh, it doesn't matter what what she's thinking or feeling. You just apologize because that's the only way to get her off your back. Like, what is your stupid jokey McJokerson marriage? Like, it sounds terrible. It sounds like there's not enough like love and trust and good things in it. Anyway, regardless, um, so yeah, these are things. So I was wrong, and I was trying to Oh, I'm gonna take part of these and just melt them with this iron like a lion in Zion. Anyway, or melt them with this charred type coal. Anyway, so yeah, we were having conflict. There was disagreement between us, which is not always fun. As a matter of fact, it's never fun. And as it turns out, like, I don't know, like, if you've ever tried fighting someone like this, but as it turns out, am the dirtiest fighter of all time. But it's not because I'm intending to fight dirty, it's that I have really, really low self-esteem. And so, like, the entire approach that I take to conflict in marriage is, like, my wife will be like, hey, you were wrong about this. And I'll be like, I am a terrible person and I hate myself. And she'll be like, what the crap? I'm just trying to point something out. You don't have to. I suck. I'm the worst. Like, you can't, and I'm saying that, and I'm not joking. Like, I mean it. Like, I mean it for reals. And you cannot fight someone who takes that approach. Like, it's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. Because, as someone who takes that approach, like, what are you going to do? What could you possibly say in response to that? And my wife is just trying to bring a concern to me. Oh, you can make block iron? Okay, I just wondered if all blocks were off or just that it was redstone. Anyway. And is redstone block really off, or is it just... Let's find out. Let's try one redstone at a time. Anyway, but yeah, so we were having this thing, and I was even telling her at the time, I'm like, I am clearly wrong. but like, she needed to hear something from me, which was like an acknowledgement that I will never do it again. And my problem was that, like, I don't want to make promises that I can't keep. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, you married an idiot, right? Like, you realize who I am. We've met, yes? You've seen how I operate. And it's funny because it ended with us being like, well, here are your strengths as a teacher. This is what makes you such an effective teacher. And I'm like, yeah, well, in your face, this is what makes you an effective teacher. She was teacher of the year last year, so she's definitely way more of an effective teacher than I am. Suck it. Like, in her face. Anyway, regardless. We don't have very much conflict in our marriage. Like, we are mostly very, very happy together. We are well suited for one another. It's just that, like, when conflict does arise, our conflict styles are so very poorly suited to each other. Like, hers is like cry, and mine is like blame myself for all the crying. And between the two of them, it doesn't work out well because, she always tries to remind me, like, when I'm crying, a lot of the time it's like I'm just washing it out. I'm just like, this is me processing it and getting it out of my system. So don't be so vain as to think that it's always you and that you did this to me and that you have to fix it. Like, come on. But, it's a very male thing to be. It's like, the wife is broken. I broke it. It's leaking out of the eyes. Does anyone know how to fix that? Is it a gasket? Is there a gasket you can get for the wife? I'm not the most brilliant person ever. But I try. So say we all. We try to do the best that we can. And I had a rough week. And I rely so heavily, like, one of the problems that I really dealt with in my depression is this constant feeling of, like, there's a thing that I always say where it's like, I'll just be like, I'm going to be dead someday, and then what will, such and such a thing, what do we do with this when I'm dead someday? And, that's a really fun thing for, you to keep bringing up with your spouse who will someday be very sad to be at your funeral. If things work out well, she'll be at mine and not by... Oh, you wrecked it, stupid. I hope you stay dead. Like, I don't need dingus sheep. I was wondering what was happening in my fields. I should build a fence around it. Anyway, oh, you piece of crap. So frustrating. Like, farming in Grognard Minecraft is way harder. It's a real pain in the neck. Ugh. Yeah, why don't I have these plowed? Because if you plow them, you won't be able to, like, stand on the banks and make the, there we go. You'll be able to stand on the banks and plant things and stuff. Anyway. Yeah, so had some conflict tonight. And here's the sucky thing, is that my wife and I were going on our first date since before the quarantine, since before everything got locked down. So since it's been well over a year since we had been on a date together. And you gotta go on dates when you're married. Like, you gotta, keep the relationship part of it alive. Otherwise, it just reverts to just like a series of errands. And who in their right mind would be like, oh, you're so beautiful and wonderful and amazing, and I love everything about you. I would love to, like, have this relationship go to the next level. And by the next level, I mean revert to just the carrying out of chores. Oh, it does have sickness. Okay, that makes, or like whatever, hunger. Yeah. I'm all excited for hunger. Anyway, so yeah, we were supposed to go on a date. Well, we did go on a date. Long story short, too late. We did go on a date. I don't know why it is, but there have been several times where these conflicts that we don't have very frequently happen on date nights. Wait, how did I run? I was running. Oh. Double tap the... Oh. That's interesting. Wow. Now I know how to run in Grognard. That's cool. Anyway, so yeah, we had our little conflict. It sucked. I reacted in all the wrong ways. I made the problem worse, like I do. Just, like gasoline-based firefighting. That's my approach. Like, what? There's a fire. Have you tried any of this? You know what? Don't even say anything. I'm just pouring it on. And just it's already on. You didn't want that on there? Well, too late. It's already on. That's me. That's me in marriage. It works out great. Anyway, but we did eventually get to go on our date. And here's the thing that sucks. Like, I mean, yes, our date was nice. It wasn't nearly long enough because we spent too much of the time that we would have normally spent on our date hashing out, marital issues that were my fault to begin with. It's funny because, like, okay, my lovely wife would not let me make this point. Like, I was trying to make this point ex post facto, after the fact, after the conflict was over. I was trying to point out, I was like, yeah, have you ever noticed that, like, because first of all, early on in our marriage, when we were having our first, like, hey, husband, you know how you're a dingus right now? Could you try not doing that? And I was like, I don't know if I can change. I am a man, and a man doesn't change. Stupid. Anyway, yeah, so I was busy being the dumbest and the worst. And she was like, well, maybe you could, like, try a little bit to not. And I was like, no. Um, anyway, so we're working our way through some challenges that were definitely my fault early in our marriage. And I pointed out, I was like, hey, this is like the third one of these that we've had. Have you ever noticed that it's always my fault? Is never anything you need to work on? And she's like, well, tell me what I need to work on. Let's have an equal marriage. And I couldn't think of anything. I like, what would I change about you and your behavior? Stop being right about me for once and all my shortcomings that I have many of and that we both are painfully aware of. Like, stop being right about that because it hurts my feelings. Like, what am I gonna say? And yeah, I couldn't think of anything. I really couldn't. And granted, I'm willing to concede the fact that I might just be bearing it deep down in my manly man emotions. Except for I'm much more emotionally in tune and intact than a lot of men. So I don't know if that's the case. But oh god, it's already 3. Holy butt snacks! Like this is gonna be a long frick episode. Holy crap, it's almost 3 hours. Jeez, and I haven't said anything of consequence this whole time. If you made it all the way through this episode, I want you to put in the comments down below, like, who the frig are you? What interests do you have in anything of mine? And, like, what drugs are you on that allowed you to get this far? Because, like, it is known, Khaleesi, that I will indulge in adult type beverage from time to time. But I'm thinking adult type beverage ain't gonna do it with what you would need to be able to handle this dingus long of an episode. Really, it's something else. Anyway, people. So yeah, like the one thing that my wife was able to point out that I had, and this was tonight when I brought it back up. And I brought it up jokingly. I wasn't like, haha, you see. I was like, no, isn't it funny? Because like either you do have things to work on and I bury them deep down and don't want to even admit them to myself because I just want to think that you're perfect and wonderful and amazing and never think ill of you in any way, shape, or form, uh, which is also unfair to her in a number of ways when you think about it. But then also, you know, it's that she's a really, really good person. And what am I going to complain about? There's not that much that I can complain about. And so when I was like, yeah, it's always my stuff. Like, isn't that funny? And I was like, seriously, isn't that funny? Like, isn't that interesting? Not like, did you ever realize it's all my fault? It's bullcrap. Like that was not the approach that I was taking at all. Anyway, she was like, no, you told me that like that it bothers you that when we're going to bed that you're always the one that has to turn off the lights and lock the doors because I just don't do it at all ever. Because the few times that she's up later than me, she would just leave the doors unlocked and the lights on and just go straight to bed as if, somebody was going to take care of it. It's like, no, you got to take care of it. Somebody's got to do it. And that person's you. And so now she pulls her weight as far as locking. And that's the smallest thing. The smallest freaking thing. Because if I was just the de facto light shutter offer door locker man, and that was just one of my chores that I do, it takes like no time to do that. And it's not even that annoying. As opposed to like, oh, you're the dirtiest couple fighter of all time. As opposed to like, oh, you're saying and doing things that if administration overheard that might put your career in jeopardy. Like, because if taken out of context, it would look really bad, even though it wasn't. And I talked to the student about it later, and the student was like, "No, I get it. I know what's going on." And so, like, anyway, regardless, um, she's just concerned about whether or not I, am continuing to contribute to our livelihood during a time of economic uncertainty throughout the rest of the nation. And she's not wrong for doing that. But I was like, why am I in trouble right now? I thought we dealt with this. And that was the wrong approach to take, my friends. Because when someone is like, I would like to voice a concern that I still have because I have concerns that concern me and I need you to help me assuage my concerns. And you're like, assuage your concerns? That's bullcrap. You can't have concerns. This piece of crap. How dare you make me look bad with your having concerns? This is the kind of approach that I took, and it was wrong. It was wrong. I say that's the kind of approach. It was nothing like that whatsoever. No, it wasn't. Anyway. All right, people. Yeah, had a rough week. Had a night that started out rough, ended pleasantly enough. I mean, we went on a date. It was nice. But the problem is that this weekend is gone, is spent. It's over. Sunday is not part of the weekend for teachers. We only get Friday and Saturday. Sunday is spoken for. Anyway, and it sucks, and I wish that I had more time, but I don't. And tomorrow is going to be a rough day because I have a lot to do and not that much time, and I'm going to want to do this, what I'm doing right now. I'm going to want to do this instead because it's more fun than grading. It's more fun than planning because the paperwork parts of being a teacher are the worst. Nobody enjoys them. Anybody who enjoys them is out of their mind and in the wrong profession. Like, it's terrible. Nobody likes it. Anyway, people, I'm getting overly tired. I just need to go straight to bed. I'm rambling, have been for hours. Have I said anything of consequence? I doubt it. This has probably been the worst episode I've ever made. But, yeah. If you made it all the way to the end, what is your life? Answer in the comments. Like, what is your life, friend? And I'm sorry that you have this much free time. I hope that things turn around for you soon. Anyway, people, this is it. This has been another episode of Minecraft. Life isn't always easy. Sometimes it's a real pain in the neck. But you know what? Like, the beauty of the thing is that, here's the funny thing. This is a detail you're not going to appreciate, but I'll give it to you anyway. Is that our disagreement? I was 100% fully nude the entire time. Why was I naked? Because I was trying to take a shower so that we could go on our date, because it's a weekend. So I didn't shower in the morning when I got up because, the schedule is broken, and I had things I needed to do that were going to make me sweat. So I was like, shower later. And then time came for me to actually be able to shower. And I took off all my clothes. And then she was like, I have a concern. And I was like, well, let's get this over with quickly because I got to shower. And then, yep. And so the whole thing happened. I was buck naked, just absolutely not a stitch on, which is very awkward. Like, Especially when you're having a conflict in your marriage and you know that everything that you were saying is wrong, you know that you are wrong, you know that there is no defending any of your actions at all, and also you're completely naked. Like it's fitting, I guess. Anyway, those of you who know me, which might be the only people who ever watch this channel, don't picture me naked. That's for me to know and you to never find out. Yeah, you're welcome. Anyway, people, uh, have a lovely time with whatever you're doing. The fact that you have time to watch an episode like this means that you know, something is either going very right in your life or very wrong, and I hope it's the former and not the latter. Like, I really do. Anyway, uh, love it when the Minecraft music kicks in. It's always so very soothing. Anyway, people, I really need to go to bed, and so do you probably. All right. We will see you in the next one, because there will always, always be a next one. This is the best method of journaling that I've ever found. Yep, we're just over 3 hours. Anyway, what a stupid, stupid episode. I'm sorry that it happened to you. Anyway, all right, people. We'll see ya. Bye.